Hey, what's going on? It's Tim here, and and we're gonna talk a little bit about who's gonna win the East. Who's gonna win the Eastern Conference in the NBA?
If I had to pick a team right now, based on I'm gonna go I'm gonna go along with just the talent. If they get everything together, I think they should be able to win. And I'm gonna go with Philly, just because that starting five has everything you'd want. It's got shooting with JJ. Tobias can shoot the ball as well. You got defense with Jimmy. Joel plays good defense. You got post up. You got passing with Ben Simmons, and he's a bigger point guard. So I think that team, if they kind of embrace their roles, all of them are gonna have to kind of take a backseat to scoring 30 points or 40 points a game. So I think if they all kind of share the ball and embrace their roles, I think they should honestly easily take the East just because of how Boston is struggling, and I don't think Milwaukee has that good of a talented team.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee will struggle. They have Giannis, but the game's gonna slow down a lot.
Yeah, and it's all going to
And
be
he
on
can't
Giannis.
shoot.
It's all going to be on him. That's the problem. I think anytime you see a team where it's so heavily relied on one guy, it rarely works unless you're like LeBron and Boston is having so much trouble with Kyrie and Brad Stevens and these guys. So if I had to pick a team, I'd go with Philly. But my runner-up is going to be Toronto, just because how Kawhi has played, and that team has played really well together. I think they've all kind of taken in their roles. They have that rookie who's playing out of this world, and then Kawhi's been clutch. He just hit a game winner the other night. He's kind of played great defense, offense. Same thing. Lowry's kind of taken a backseat to Kawhi as well. So I think they've done everything well, and that coach has been really impressive. So I'm gonna go with number one is Philly, and then number two is Toronto.
I agree with you a little bit, right, to an extent. I think Boston, although they're having a lot of trouble, I think maybe come playoff time they can hash it out and figure out what to do. I think the game slows down a little bit. They're a professional NBA team, so talent-wise, they have a lot of talent on that roster. Maybe not as much as Philly, but I think compared to the other teams in the East, you got a guy like Jaylen Brown that plays really well. Gordon Hayward is slowly starting to figure it out. Al Horford is a guy that can give you 14 and 10 every game. Doesn't look a lot on the stat sheet, but he's solid, very good defensively, good passing big. Kyrie, come playoff time, Kyrie's about one of the clutchest players in the NBA. So I think he's gonna be lights out come playoff time. I'm really surprised that they're having such big issues, right? Last season you saw they played really well in the playoffs, and to see that now they're struggling so much and everybody's healthy, I'm really shocked with that. I expected a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it's Tatum's second year, so kind of teams are maybe starting to know how to defend him a bit better. And I think I think he's sort of realizing what LeBron was talking about in Cleveland. So Kyrie went to Boston, and he's now surrounded by these young guys who might think they have it all figured out, since Boston has been pretty successful over the past couple of years. So I think Kyrie's kind of facing that what LeBron was talking about, and I just don't think he's happy with Brad Stevens. There's been a lot of videos of him in the huddle, maybe not happy with what Brad Stevens called or kind of the way they're moving the ball. So I think it's going to either they're going to have an early exit in the playoffs, or they're going to have a deep run. I don't think it's going to be...
You don't think they'll come out?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to come out just because of that issues with the coach. And I think Boston is the type of organization where they might lean towards the coach rather than the player. A team like Cleveland or the Lakers, they're going to lean towards the player. Yeah. But I think Boston is one of those who's going to lean with Brad Stevens, because if Brad Stevens gets fired, there's going to be probably like 15 teams lined up just to hire him for what he's done in Boston.
Okay. The one thing I don't like about Philly, I think, is Ben is really good, but come playoff time, his game gets slowed down a lot. You can really back off him off the three-point line, off the jumper, which is going to allow other players that are guarding him to help out. So I think that's going to be a very that's going to be if there's one thing that I don't like about Philly's chances in the playoffs is that he can't shoot the ball.
Yeah, I think the thing that worries me about Philly is their bench is not good at all. They have some guys who can give you quality minutes, but they don't have anybody who can be sixth man of the year or kind of come in and drop 20 points. And the second thing is, I don't know who any in that starting five can kind of slow down their ego. We know Jimmy Butler is he's not a fan of taking a back seat or kind of embracing a role. He has that kind of alpha mentality where he wants to be the number one guy, and he feels as if everybody else. So,
Yeah.
so those two things I think are a big thing. And then once you include Ben Simmons not being able to even hit a free throw at this point, it might be a recipe for bad news, especially if they go and face a team like Milwaukee who plays good defense and they know their roles. So I think it's going to be a big thing for Philly's coaching staff.
Perfect. You say Philly, I say Philly. I think Philly's going to come out. I do want to say Boston, but right now they're not showing that. So what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to come out of the East? And then we'll look forward to your comments.